Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? It is Monday, July 8th. Do you know what's going on in Clown World Canada today? We're going to dive into that and a whole lot more. So, before I get into the rest of that, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grannies and gators, friends, family, neighbors and friends, and even those that might not be any of those that might be watching. I hope you're learning something. Please give this a like, a share, and double check that you're subscribed and got your notifications on, because these guys have been notorious for unsubscribing y'all and turning off your notifications, just making it seem like you've got spooks in the machine that are deciding for you what you might be most interested in or not. So we are in the most trying times of censorship and propaganda that we've ever known. So this is pretty critical to us. So before I get into a little bit of the housekeeping, I want to hear from you guys today. We've got good news, we've got a little bit of bad news, and we've got a little bit of absurdity, and a little more scandal. So I want to hear and see in the chat, guys. First of all, where you guys are tuning in from. Make sure that we are still getting out to the international community, because I know that there are people watching this platform from all over the planet. We're going to have some great announcements for later on this week, but I want to hear where you guys are from and which part of the news you want first, while I do just a wee bit of the housekeeping. Now, I've been kind of regurgitating over the past few shows, at the beginning of each show, a couple of alternative places where people can find us now that they are cracking down on some of the censorship. Rumble has been pretty good to us so far, although that being said, they have removed or made at least three of my videos removed or difficult to find. Um, One removed and three others very difficult to find, or they refused to stream them while they were live. So, not sure what's going on with Rumble, but for the time being, this is kind of where all of us cool kids hang out and we get to chat amongst each other. There's a community that's moving over here from all over the place and finding us here. So, I'm going to say hi to a few folks like that. Hey, DCW from Alberta, my home province up here in Canada. Good to see ya. Allie's dad, I love this. Hey, from Niagara, where it's hotter than a snake's in a wagon rut. Yeah, I can attest to that. Pretty toasty here in Ontario. From downtown Toronto, a hot mess in the concrete jungle. Oh man, I can imagine it'd be terrible downtown Toronto today. Thank you, DWC, for sharing us on X. Absolutely, Gemini Moon. Thank you for smashing that like button. And what else we got here? We got a couple other folks. Nice breeze in Middle Ontario. Nice, nice, nice. Now my volume is pretty low. Maybe I can turn that up a little bit. I kind of got. Um, I'll see if I can do something in the back end. See if that's a little bit better for you, Gemini. All right. BC, the colony, Chilliwack, bad to good. Thanks. Hey, somebody actually listened to me out there. Bad to good. Okay. Well, since we're going to start with that, bad to good, I'm going to pop over here, change slightly the direction. Oh, first, let me finish the housekeeping. Too busy talking to folks and forgetting what my job here is, because this is my job. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to bring up on here. The show on Thursday, or I think it was, yes, Thursday's show and last Tuesday's show. Blockbusters, guys. Lots of scandal, lots of documents, lots of information. We kind of were some of the first to talk about more of what we're going to be hearing about here real soon. The good news is that you guys don't miss a thing if you are subscribed over on Substack. The important part of Substack, guys, that I encourage everybody to better safe than sorry. Double up on where you're getting our stuff from. Rumble does not let us share much. It's the live stream, you guys chatting. That's basically it. There's always show notes with some stuff in it, but When you get to the Substack and you open up what the previous show was the night before, this is where it's gets to the gold and the nuggets and all of the stuff. People are asking me all the time, where else can I find you? Well, here are exactly the links where you can find us on other platforms where we are every single day, Monday to Friday. But the other thing that I wanted people to understand here is this is where I can actually give you guys documents and stuff as well, right? So really a lot of work gets piled into these Substacks. It's not just me doing live streams anymore. I'm bringing you guys the receipts, and it's free to subscribe on Substack, same as Rumble. No cost to you guys ever, but I'm going to show you guys my dashboard. This is what I earn for my job, bringing you guys what I do every week, Monday to Friday. Although it is free, there are 15 paid subscribers, and that works out to, I think, $8 a month or $80 a year. This is going to be the backup of backups. Right now, we've got about almost 600 people subscribed over there. There is a link in the bottom of this stream, unless you're watching it on X, but you can find it on any of our platforms. But that is the one of the best ways to get all of the goods and to also help me do what I'm doing, because honestly guys, this doesn't work without you. If you guys don't want this, it's easy to do by just not supporting this. This is crowdfunded, crowdsourced. I do this with you, for you, not for any other reason other than that. And that is a real easy way to make sure that I get to keep doing what I do every day for everybody else out there. My goal, honestly, guys, is I would like to get to 375 subscribers, paid subscribers. That's going to be a target. You're going to hear me talking about this for a little while, because at 375 paid subscribers on Substack, honestly, I will never have to ask for donations again, because that covers my monthly bills, and I can at least guarantee myself one box of Kraft Dinner every day. So now when it comes to Facebook, my arch nemesis Facebook, who's banned me from streaming live until I provide them government accreditation, to which I have my standard issue GFY for any of those Stasi. Wimkin is kind of the go-to for a replacement for Facebook, guys. It's made in the USA, a patriot just like us. Jason Shepard, for the same reasons we do what we do up here, Jason started Wimkin. And you can also get all of the live streams every day streamed live on Wimkin, and that is kind of where Facebook is rebuilding. We're regathering over there. So that's it for the housework. Now I got the cue that it was to be bad news first. So bad news first. We're going to start with Catherine Austin Fitts. And this is going to tie into some other stuff. I put a post up on my Facebook page that they'll still let me post. They just won't let me stream live to everybody out there. But we're going to hear this 2-minute clip from Catherine Austin Fitts, and then we're going to talk about it. All right, guys. But the point that I wanted to bring here out of this is this paragraph here. Once they have control of your transactions, they can dictate what food you can and cannot buy. So if they don't want you buying pizza, you can't buy pizza. If they want you to buy pizza made with insect-based flour, that's what you're going to get. All right, listen to this for just 2 minutes.
One of the things, that you see when you fight, at this level, trying to protect freedom, is they can't get financial control unless they can control the food supply. Because people can always start their own currencies as long as they can grow food and they have animal protein. And so if you look at the push for financial control and CBDCs or things like CBDCs, it's the same push. They're pushing to control the food supply. And there's an absolute, if you look at sort of the operations they do and the lies they tell to get that central control, a lot of it is to, excuse and justify the things they're doing to get control of the food supply. So you and I discussed pharma food,
Yes.
which we published before, Dutch Farmers and Fishermen. So this is an entire study on synthetic food, including lab-grown meat and insect-based flour
Bioengineered.
and bioengineered. It's basically the pharmaceutical industry taking over the food supply. So the idea is we get rid of farmers, we kill any naturally grown food, and we engineer food in manufacturing plants and laboratories. Here's what you need to understand. One of the reasons I'm working and I'm so committed to preventing financial transaction control is that is what they are planning on to feed you synthetic lab grown meat. No one in their right mind would ever eat this stuff. But the reality is what they're hoping is that once they have control of your transactions, they can dictate your health policies and they can dictate what food you can and cannot buy. So if they don't want you buying pizza, you can't buy pizza. If they want you to buy pizza made with insect-based flour, that's what you're going to get. That's one of the reasons they want this kind of control. And remember, you had John Kerry saying, we ought to get rid of all the farmers. They're literally planning on getting rid of all the farmers and instituting, food created synthetically in manufacturing laboratories. You have to read it. And one of the reasons you have to read it is the reason to stop them from putting your farmers and fishermen out of business and pushing them off their land is if they succeed in doing that, you and I will be eating lab-grown meat. That's their plan.
So now, on that note, this is where it literally gets dicey, guys. On I gotta get out of that screen. On what I've been experiencing, I put a post up on Facebook, and I wanted to share it with you guys because she's actually addressing it here. I got a series of notifications on my bank account the other day, and I really sat there. Honestly, I sat there for about 10 minutes, just kind of gobsmacked by what I was reading and interpreting that, all of the things that we've been talking about over the past little while about what they plan on implementing. Even on Friday's show, we were talking about what they plan on implementing. Allie's dad, we talk about that too. The repeat in history of communism and fascism, and every time they try it, they think they got it right, and this time around they think they got it right again. Why? Thanks to internet and control and the mass formation that they've been able to achieve, but they're still not listening to you or me, Carly, and we're saying no bug burgers for us. But here we are seeing exactly what Catherine Austin Fitts was talking about when she's talking about controlling our transactions. Here's my bank account reminding me that my spending on groceries this month is above my average by 32 cents. By 32 cents, guys. I'm over my budget, and they felt compelled to let me know this is an area of concern. And over the last month, my spending in groceries was $69.20 higher. I really need to think about what I'm doing, my behavior. How dare I? There's a couple of there was a series of 5 notifications. One of them was telling me exactly which store I had bought stuff at. And I find this not just highly disturbing, but because it's none of their business. Really, it's none of their business. Typically, I try to use cash wherever I go, but it isn't always possible. And this is the trap. This is the trap that Catherine Austin Fitts is warning us about in this space. If y'all wanted to send me cash donations, I would be overjoyed. But do you know what's happening? None of y'all are going to send me cash in the mail. I don't blame you. I wouldn't send cash in the mail either. So now I am already being trapped in order to sustain this business, this service, this thing that I do. I'm trapped by the dependency of the currency exchange. So they've got me there. I tried to eliminate as much of that as I possibly can, just down to the bare bones of the software and the tools that I need and the transactions that I need to make, but they still got me. And as you folks out there don't want to get involved in digital currency anymore, the donations, since Trudeau terrorized the country and showed him that he could seize our bank accounts if for wrong think, this is where I'm at. Now they're telling me that I spent 32 cents more than I used to on groceries, and they're noticing that, and that 32 cents warrants a notification to me that my behavior has changed. They have noticed it, and I don't know about you guys, but I find this absolutely mortifying. Not just unacceptable, Ali's dad, but absolutely mortifying. Now here's the double-edged sword that uh, I typically have with this is, if I warn you guys, you guys are going to do less. The less you guys do, the sooner I'm going to be taken out of the equation. So this is we talked about it over the last couple of weeks several times, this new Hegelian dialect that has become the participatory action model that they use to implement exactly these kinds of things and fine tune them. Uh, you know what? Thank you for asking, Carly. If you email me at wayne@whatsupcanada.org, I will send you a PO box where you can do that. But I cannot make that public, as I'm sure you can well understand. So this was setting aside, my budget of $90 a month for groceries, being $60 more than I ordinarily spend, is already, if that isn't indicative enough that we are dying, we are being choked out here in Canada, and now they want to micromanage down to the cents what we're spending and how we're getting by in our worlds, and still want us to think that slavery has been abolished. This was just something that I just got off the internet that I thought was kind of interesting, because this is one of the things that's kind of struck me over the last little while. And I'll make sure all these graphics are in the Substack tomorrow for you guys too. Is wondering, from a different level of understanding, we're always getting smarter, wiser, learning more. And we, so long as we can admit that we don't know what we don't know, we're always open and willing to learn more. And the more we learn, the differently we see things. And I'm wondering, the as I'm seeing the difference between freedom builders and freedom fighters, and how they are growing to be different roles, different things, different capacities, different people, all of those things. It's made me question, what kind of freedom, how do I see myself? Am I a freedom fighter or a freedom builder? For me, I started out as a fighter. My first part of my life was basically as a warrior. But when I launched What's Up Canada, I launched it with the single solitary purpose and understanding. I knew at that time, and I was telling people then, someday the mercenary media, the mockingbird media, the fake media, whatever, the Marxist media, whatever you want to call them, someday they're going to collapse because insanity is unsustainable. And when that time comes, What's Up Canada will be there to help fill the void with information and knowledge that we can trust, because I'm in this with you guys. We're all in this together. So I question, what am I fighting for? What kind of freedom am I fighting for? Am I fighting for the bird that gets out of its cage into the bedroom, or the bird that gets out of its cage and gets to roam the house, or the bird that gets out of its cage and gets to prosper and thrive in the real world? So question what we're actually, where we're actually going, what is the destination? And because if we only want to go back to 1980 or 1970 or 1990, where we were a little bit more comfortably, at the end of the day, guys, when you look at this, it was kind of all still slavery at the end of the day then. Was it not? So yeah, I just want people to, to kind of just sit back and do a health check on some of our why, and maybe find, maybe a direction that makes more sense to us. Maybe we've got enough freedom fighters out there down on the streets. Maybe we can do more as a freedom builder than as a freedom fighter, right? So that's kind of the, becoming more philosophical in my old age, if you will. Now we're going to get into some more scandal. Like I've been calling this the season of the sacrificial political lamb, and we're going to get into some of that here right away. I'm only going to play just a minute of this because it's going to tie up in a pretty little bow a whole bunch of things that we have been talking about a lot lately. So,
a newly leaked report exposes Chrystia Freeland's covert activities at the elite Davos summit. Brace yourself because the details are even more alarming than anticipated. While struggling Canadians footed the bill, Freeland was caught red-handed conspiring with the anti-democratic globalists who run Davos on implementing their tyrannical agenda in Canada. According to these explosive leaks, Freeland signed off on handing national sovereignty over to unelected World Economic Forum technocrats. She also agreed to force net zero carbon lockdowns and introduce a programmable digital currency controlled by Davos elites. In secret talks, Freeland reportedly promised Davos bankers lucrative stakes in Canada's infrastructure while pledging to censor online dissent against their takeover plans. And that's just the start of Freeland's betrayals documented in these shocking leaks. They confirm Canadians' worst fears. The Liberal deputy PM has been covertly selling us out to foreign globalists plotting our enslavement. These whistleblower revelations about Freeland's actions at Davos come at a critical time, as Canadians awaken to the damages caused by Trudeau and Freeland. Now,
I'm going to stop with that right there because that's kind of the point that I wanted to make out of this. We've been talking about the things that Chrystia Freeland has been doing for a very, very long time, but they are now getting out into the open. It's becoming more dialogue where they're not able to silence us in spite of everything that they do and try. We're going to hear a little bit more about that in just a few minutes, but the essence of what we understanding, we talked about it where in Davos, or was it Geneva, one of those in January, where they said the two priorities, the entire the whole globalist elite had to change all of their priority lists and make rebuilding trust and stamping out disinformation and misinformation, i.e. information they didn't like, i.e. people like me and any other actual striving person to bring the truth out to everybody. We're now their number one threat, their number one priority. We talked about on the breaking news on Thursday, the new agency. This is just getting good, guys.
Laura Stone, Globe and Mail, Deputy Prime Minister. I wanted to ask you, it's our understanding that you hosted some Toronto MPs at your home last night. Can you outline for us how that came about, what they wanted to talk to you about, and how you addressed their concerns about the fallout from the St. Paul's by-election?
So I would say that's not entirely accurate. John McKay is the chair of the 416 caucus, and he chaired an in-person meeting of some 416 caucus members. I offered my backyard because it's in a central location.
That's all I'm gonna stop with that right there on that one, guys, because she said the part out loud that people need to hear and understand. We've talked about how the caucus is demanding Trudeau speak to them. He's ignoring them. All of this is just part of the charade, but it means something, and we're gonna get to that later on. Like I said, this is the season of the sacrificial political lamb. Now, what we're seeing literally here is her protecting herself, Freeland protecting herself. Oh, not my idea. I didn't do it. John McKay did this. John McKay did this. We know that John McKay was the one that, when he tendered his resignation, basically stating that Trudeau belonged in prison for foreign interference, meddling, corruption, all of the things that should have any criminal in prison in Canada. John McKay actually accused Justin Trudeau of basically committing. And so if Freeland was loyal to Justin, do you think she would offer her house to the guy that's calling for Trudeau's head from inside of the party? Or is this more like Brutus and Caesar? This is Chrystia Freeland opening her door for the people that want Trudeau's head and telling us that, no, we're not getting peed on. It's sunshine and lollipops, rainbows and unicorns. Wonderful rain. She's covering her butt by pretending it's somebody else and pretending that she's not out there selling out Canadians as fast as she bloody can. So now this is where it gets interesting. I'm going to lead into this because this is where I stopped one of the earlier videos there. Now, Andrew Lawton's kind of on this. What did she do in Davos? Well, this is kind of the leaked report that they're talking about. And Leslyn Lewis, although seems to be saying the right things, has been on the Deputy Prime Minister about what she did in Davos and spent $40,000 on. And jeepers, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this, guys. Maybe I can make this a little bigger for everybody. So what was basically Chrystia doing in Davos? What was her excuse for the $40,000 of your money that she spent over there? For the annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland, from January 15th to 19th, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance attended from January 16th to the 19th, blah, 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 held meetings and with business leaders and other participants, including members of the Ukrainian delegation, a variety of business leaders about opportunities for Canada, and foreign government leaders and elected representatives. Ukrainians and autocrats. No details. What did she get out of it? She got to participate in a panel entitled No Recovery Without Trade and Investments. Participants, including Chair and Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of America, Brian Moynihan. Not sure if I know anything about him, but must obviously be a globalist. A name I cannot pronounce, Director General of the World Trade Organization. Nothing stinks like a globalist swamp creature by saying General World Trade Organization. And another name I can't really pronounce, the European Commissioner for Trade. So what were they kind of talking about over there at that? Well, I think I actually have a clip of that, guys. Let's hear what Chrystia had to tell this unelected foreign entity about Canada business.
To the Industrial Revolution itself. In terms of the energy transition, in this moment, you know, we have the critical minerals and metals that you need to build a green economy. We have a lot of clean energy. 85% of our grid is already clean, and we are investing heavily in building more clean energy. We are a country that believes in manufacturing, has manufacturing know-how and capacity. And then you guys spoke about industrial policy. You know, the thing that is new about industrial policy is we are developing our economies, growing our economies at a time when we also need to accomplish the green transition. And I spoke
There it
yesterday
is.
to a very significant international business leader who is also a big investor in Canada. And he said to me, all the countries in the world need to be very careful that decarbonization does not mean deindustrialization. I thought that was an extremely smart comment, and Canada is absolutely determined that decarbonization for us will mean more jobs, more growth, more manufacturing, and we recognize government needs to play a role to make that happen.
Decarbonization. If that doesn't terrify everybody that knows actually what they're talking about, and it's like she'd never been able to even contemplate, oh, well, maybe, destroying the country for our green objectives while we make this unholy transition might not be the best thing for our country. This is what she spends $40,000 of our money to go over to Europe to sit with unelected foreign entities, make deals with people that got no business doing the things that they're doing at the behest of Canada, all to fulfill this, the green agenda, the Paris Agreement. This, guys, is where where we start to enter into the absurd, because I don't want to come across as anything other than fully genuine, and for you, the people, to understand the magnitude of the danger that we are in by the deception of the uniparty. I keep harping a lot about every metric of suffering in Canada stems from unelected foreign entities in Geneva, New York, and Davos. Well, this is it. It's the Paris Agreement, guys. The Paris Agreement is the foundation of the UNSDA, the Migration Compact, every foreign policy that is destroying every other country that we can identify with as, being democratic nations. They're all being destroyed by this particular policy, the Paris Agreement, the UNSDA. Now I want to introduce you guys to somebody. Everybody looks at Pierre Poilievre, thinks hero, hero, hero. Part of this discussion here now is brought about because so-called influencers either don't know, don't want to know, or are sold out to the system. But if they profess to be telling you the truth and saying Pierre Poilievre will save you, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party is a real patriot, no, they need to meet this lady, Cheryl Gallant. Cheryl Gallant is the only single one in the Conservative caucus that did not, and I repeat, did not sell us out to the globalists. And I'm going to show you right here. This was done in 2017. Chrystia Freeland is over there signing trade agreements and business deals based on the fact that they have destroyed Canada and there is nothing left. They're fulfilling the obligations of exactly this unholy agreement. And now we're going to look at how we come to being subservient to this agreement. I tell people all the time, the only thing they're fighting over is our wallets. Why? Because the UNSDA, the 17 goals of sustainability, the Agenda 2030, the Agenda 25, all of the agendas, every single last one of them stem from this document. Those are the amendments. These other agendas that they come up with are the amendments to this document, the attaboy sheets, the yearly report cards, per se, to show their fulfillment to this document. Now, here is the vote totaled. going back to June 6th, 2017. Who sold us out in 2017? I promise you this lady didn't. But now, let's look at who did sell us out. This is just a conservative list. Let's look at some of these people professing to be conservative representatives of we the people that said yay to this document selling us out to the United Nations. How many of these folks do you recognize in here? Right? Okay, I'm going to go through these. I'm going to just go with across the ones that I was kind of surprised by. Candice Bergen, gone now. Michael Cooper, still there. Comes across pretty solid and fighting for us. But what are they really fighting for? Garnet Genius. Oh, really, Garnet? You signed off on us too? Imagine that. Right? Rob Nicholson. That explains a few things to me, actually. And sorry. Here we are. Mr. Pierre Poilievre agreed to the Paris Accord, which is the one that was written by Jason Kenney under Stephen Harper. The same Jason Kenney joining everybody else's hero, Jordan Peterson. And this is the other one that's kind of interesting because at the time, who was the head of the Conservative Party? Mr. Doughboy himself, right? So he was the one that led the rest of the party into that unholy signing of this document that allowed this treason to become the to-do list. This is the this is the source of all of the things that are destroying not just our country, but everybody else's country. And we need to kind of get our heads wrapped around where this is taking us, right? So this is on the books here right now, and this kind of came through when I was trying to when I was digging into this story and some of the people. I don't know this Cheryl Gallant, but I intend to learn more about her right now because this lady has some stroke, and nobody in my little small world seems to know her, but this lady's got some pull, and she's the only one that voted nay in this. The only one. Everyone else was yay. She was the only nay. So Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, if she's still out there, I think you guys might have a good one out there. But at this point now, they're all suspect to me. Every last one of them. And now they're going to have an opportunity. Oops, sorry, this was the one I meant to be sharing with you guys. Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke. Every last one of the rest of these pseudo actors. If they didn't understand this, why did they sign it? I think that this is the perfect case in point why we have to hold these buggers' feet to the fire before we give them office. Now that Mr. Pierre Poilievre was the same guy that in 2020, 2021, I'm not sure when it was, But PPC candidate Mark Friesen went up to him and asked him why he'd signed on to this. And he played stupid and said, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'll have to go and look. I'll have to go and see. But, these guys are wash, rinse, repeat. Shannon Stubbs, another one that I'm a little bit surprised there. Rachel Thomas, a little surprised by that. A lot of these people, Bob Zimmer. At this point, we have to accept that we can't hold them accountable. But what we can do is absolutely make sure that if they don't address, repent, and do every single thing in their power before the next election to undo what they have done here with this, and they can unring that bell. This isn't the Navy SEALs, guys. This is public representation. These people serve you. But if we don't hold their feet to the fire right now when they're paying attention and they're listening because they want to make sure that they can get in there the next damn time around, we're not going to get an opportunity again. And this is literally basically the bulk of the Conservative Party in compliance with surrendering Canada to the New World Order. Simple. This is why Trudeau's fighting so damn hard to make sure that this foreign these 11 members of the foreign influence and 11 members of Parliament that have been influenced remain anonymous, because if we start applying the lens of foreign influence, meddling, corruption, treason, if we start looking at what those guys did and comparing that to what every young global leader did, or what every member that signed that unholy alliance did, I think that would really change the scale and scope of what accountability would mean and stand for in Canada. And I think it's kind of critical when we look at what these guys have got on deck for this year. And the reason I really wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to bring up some of the language. And this is kind of the one of the Event 201 type playbooks on how they reinforce the 2030 agenda with sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. This is the Bank of Canada telling the government here to re-educate our population and do it now. So this high-level political forum on sustainable development, the ones that wants to make climate change, pandemic under the same pandemic laws as they had for the beer bug, they want more. The main UN platform for the follow-up and review of the Sustainable Development Goals, and all of these links, guys, are I'll give them to everybody in the Substack. I'll break them out individually, and I'll make sure that you guys can go and get what you want out of there. But it's being held from the 8th to the 17th of July, 2024, under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council, under the theme Reinforcing the 2030 Agenda and Eradicating Poverty in Times of Multiple Crises, the effective delivery of sustainable, resilient, and innovative solutions. The forum will review in depth. Ending poverty, ending hunger, climate action, peace and justice, and partnerships. If that does not sound like every diabolical caricature from evil one from past history, sound like a wet dream and a party for all of those guys, Pol Pot, Mao, Stalin, Marx, you name it, including the mustache dude. They're all going to be there in on that. When you start looking at some of these documents and the language that they use, this is where it gets disturbing, guys. Really gets disturbing. It's exactly the same gobbledygook that you get out of Chrystia Freeland every single day, and every other cookie cutter clone trooper globalist from the UK to New Zealand to Australia, every last one of them regurgitating the same drivel. But we have to make change this year. We're not going to change them, and we have to understand. This is critical to understand. People, what are the people that you're cheering for contractually obligated to? And this is what hurts me, because I like some of these podcasters that are out there. I really genuinely do. They're fun, they're funny, they're entertaining. They ratio the left. But what they won't do is call out the crime, corruption, and collusion on the right. Now, this again comes back to what's critical in understanding what that Paris Agreement is and what all these parties are signed on to. In 2018 was the Migration Compact deal. Did anybody read that? Not many people did, except for the people that were on the convoy in February to Ottawa. That was what even the so-called freedom fighters didn't have the guts to talk about. So they went along with the oil theme because everybody else just squabbled and squawked, and it turned into this giant explosive thing where everybody knew about it, but nobody was allowed to talk about it because you might get called racist. And it worked. All of those cowards that didn't have the balls to use the right language at the right time are partially responsible for where we are here right now, because now we need to understand what this migration compact was. That was a part of that UNSDA that they were all whipped into signing. And all of these guys that want to be in office the next time around again are fully committed and contractually obligated to exactly the same treason as Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau. And this is the part that has reached beyond the absurdity level. We have to give them a moment of grace here, I do think, because if we don't, then we'll end up with civil war. But if they don't repent and come up, I don't care what politician it is. If you've signed those evil documents, give me a lie, give me an excuse, but throw every bit of your effort for the rest of your life into stopping what you've done. And we can start there. But if these conservatives want to pretend that only chirping about what is acceptable to talk with Pierre about, we're making the same mistake, and then we will have nobody to blame for the end of Canada but us, because we didn't have the guts to call them out for what they're all contractually obligated to. So anybody that tells me that Pierre Poilievre is a patriot and a hero, I call liar, bullshit, until he starts to undo some of what he has taken part in and stop hiding behind lies and spin and banking on the hatred of the other guy, hoping that we don't notice before he gets into office. So that's part of the bad news, guys. And anybody that thinks I'm kidding, that Pierre is actually the good guy, well, even the CBC knows. They called him out. I'm not saying that I hate Pierre. I don't. I kind of like him. I wish he was a good guy. This is what pisses me off the most. I wish he was actually a good guy. But he's even said he's not proposing an exit to the Paris Agreement. So if we're not starting with that, nothing else matters. That's the point of this, guys. If we don't make one thing our absolute universal priority across this country, nonpartisan, doesn't matter. I don't care who you identify with or as. If we don't exit these unholy UN alliances, Canada is done. if we follow this charade and Kool-Aid, this satanic lullaby, he's only just the next actor on the block to hold down his ass in the seat until he gets his paycheck, his 30 pieces of silver. It's literally wash, rinse, repeat, passing the baton from one side to the other. Like I'm not exaggerating, guys, when I say the only thing that these guys are actually campaigning for is who gets to steal our money to implement the attaboy list. That is literally it. Do you think once he's in office, he's ever going to get rid of this or the or this one? Anybody? No? So in looking at this article, this one, I was digging through this one, reading it out, and I came across this section here. Louise Arbour of Canada, former human UN rights chief, said the issue is also being tied up in parliamentary debates in Belgium, Bulgaria, Estonia, Italy, Israel, Slovenia, and Switzerland. Although some of them did participate in creating the accord, which has since been ensnared by tough political headwinds. Do you think not everybody on the planet wanted to be invaded? Because that's what it was an invasion. Well, that name made me curious. Who is this lady? I had to go look. Didn't recognize the first picture I saw of her, but I did recognize this one. And this is like one of those transition positions between Trudeau Sr. and Trudeau Jr., keeping the legacy alive. You know, we talk about this. What we're up against is multi-generational, and we're just becoming organized now in all of this, right? And just now entering into this enlightenment that will take us to a renaissance. But let's have a quick look at this lady and see if she kind of feels a little swamp creaturey. So born 1947, a Canadian lawyer, prosecutor, and jurist. I didn't know you'd be a professional jurist. All right. Arbour was the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, a former Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada and the Court of Appeal for Ontario, a former Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Tribunals for the former Yugoslavia and Rwanda. That was all above board and up to snuff and par, right? I only wonder which side was up to snuff. The disasters or the cover-ups, right? So from 2009 to 2014, she served as president and CEO of the International Crisis Group. She made history with the indictment of Slobodan Milosevic, as well as the first prosecution of sexual assaults as a crime against humanity. From March 2017 to December 2018, she was a special representative of the United Nations Secretary General. Well, that's way up there, folks. That's no longer Supreme Court of Canada Justice. That is up there. And she's the special representative of the United Nations Secretary General. Let's leave that up there for a second. Is the Chief Administrative Office of the United Nations and head of the United Nations Secretariat, one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations. And she specialized in international migration. Currently in private practice in Montreal. Am I going to get another lawsuit threat again? Because I cannot help but wonder when looking at the timelines of this transition of everything from illegal to economic migrants to student visa migrants to these unchecked borderless countries. How much did she facilitate? How much did she help? What is the person really, truly, and generally behind that? And throughout looking through this, I came across, let's see if I can find it in here now, her assistant. in all of this. I'm sure you should be able to find it. I'll pull it up here anyways. But her assistant is a fella named Jonathan Prentice. And another new face to me. That's the interesting part about this. This never gets old because there's a brand new swamp creature every single day, right? And this one, Jonathan Prentice, on the United Nations Global Compact for Migration, Aspirations and Realities. He's a speaker there a little while ago. He's worked for the United Nations since 1994, including postings in Baghdad, Delhi, Geneva, Jakarta, New York, and Phnom Penh. 2010 to 2016, he worked for the International Crisis Group, right? Okay, with the other lady there. Director of Policy. Oh, okay. Director of Policy. Interesting. 2017, 2018, he was Chief of Office for the Secretary General Special Representative for International Migration. Okay, so I think we're getting a little bit, more of an understanding on who these people are that have kind of crafted and implemented, this foreign policy, or this policy of migration, and making it, our modern day now reality. But since 2019, January, he's been responsible for setting up and heading the Secretariat of the United Nations Network on Migration. Chief UN swamp creature invading army coordinator, and network extraordinaire, and general accomplice in Canada. Louise Arbour has got us in a pickle. Oh, and this interesting, just side note, who would have guessed that it's another education institution taking part in this complicity? All right. Wow, am I going way over on the mark on all of this insanity, swamp creatures, and corruption? That I wanted to get into some of the good news, guys. I can't leave everybody on, visions of swamp creatures being the only thing out there in the universe. That is not the case. We are actually still winning, in my opinion. And for that, I'm going to spend a few extra minutes here. We'll go a little bit long. We'll talk about some of the wins of the week. I've got some stuff that we can pull up and share with you guys on that too. So that'll just make the end of tomorrow's Substack that much better for everybody when they get through all of this. So this is from Dr. Mark Trotzi's Substack. And there's a few people that are doing this every Friday. There's a Freedom Rising meeting, a leadership meeting, where it's kind of, everybody talking about behind the scenes, what they're doing, what they're excited by. The victories of the week is something that happens every week. There's a few people that take notes from that, and publish a little bit, because they, we're that's a part of freedom building, is keeping people motivated and energized, right? And they understand this. So it's important for people to know that people are working, people are winning, but we may not always get to hear about it. So I choose to take a look at Dr. Trotzi's Substack. He's a close personal friend and a warrior doing different things right now. He's on the West Coast. We got to do something about this. Traveling east to west, him and I seem to be going opposite directions at the same all the time. But we'll cover a couple of points, or we'll cover the wins of the week amongst the there's a bunch of communities, all of the leaders in the freedom movement organization that you want to talk about. They have representatives or that take part in these brainstorming and think tank missions. This is where a lot of this stuff that does happen and successfully happens originates from, or grows in that incubator of freedom building. So we'll start with President Trump has stated that he would establish a special presidential commission of independent minds to determine what is causing the increase in chronic illness in the U.S. One of the major pillars of RFK's campaign also in 2024 is to investigate the chronic illness in children, a message that has been consistent on throughout his career. With both Trump and RFK willing to investigate this topic, it increases the attention on this topic and puts Big Pharma on notice while upping the chances whoever is the next president will carve out a space to aggressively approach chronic childhood illnesses by any means necessary. You have to read between the lines on some of this stuff. Bearing in mind, this is campaign season. This is, as I'm learning to filter and frame better, I'm starting to be able to see and identify more. It's like fine tuning the binoculars just a little bit more all the time. The point here that they're trying to make is the Overton window on holding people to account in the biowarfare program is going to be on the table aggressively, regardless of which one of these candidates should be victorious, if either of them will be victorious in the next major election in America. I've got my fingers crossed, praying and hoping that they both survive to see one of them put another nail in the swamp creature's coffin, shall we say. But number 2, ICANN leading attorney Aaron Series gave expert testimony before the New Hampshire House Committee on COVID Response Efficacy. Series drilled down on the serious concerning missteps with regulators handling of vaccine safety. It has been described as the most powerful testimony Series has given on the public record and exposes the FDA's failure to protect the public from vaccine harms. This is going to be a key point coming into the next year in the public in the public space up here as well in Canada. So this is good news that these kinds of things, they cannot just dismiss us as conspiracy theorists on. And this is going to be even more critical in Canada than ever before. And I'm going to touch on that. The next warning tomorrow. Tomorrow's show, we're going to dig into the next warning. So this, I believe, was also addressed by Del Bigtree in the High Wire. So that's the link. I will make sure that everybody gets that in the Substack as well, right? So a statement from Bobby Kennedy. We're on to number 3 here now. A statement from Bobby Kennedy Jr. stated that there can be no question that Joe Biden is no longer fit for office. I think the whole world knew that, but they needed, the debate was the sacrifice. It was the way that the most possible people behind Biden would be able to escape the wrath and literally the senior abuse that they've been engaging in for far too long in America. But this leaves America very vulnerable at this point. So sooner they get over this, the better for everybody's safety, I got to admit. But at this point, any person, given the state of the mental capacity and, oh, his health is fine, it's just his brain, Merry Christmas. Anybody that thinks that America is in a position to be led into an extreme conflict, this cannot happen. And I think more intellectual brains will prevail, and I think that's why they actually sacrificed him, because they got problems and they can't get out of this one with Biden. So it's damage control. Sacrifice the lamb. Get on with trying to maintain their grip on the infiltration. So the American people witnessed this last Thursday. Now, how many in the Democratic Party are calling for the president to step down? It's a watershed moment for America. We cannot let Donald Trump off the hook either. The debate was amateurish and sounded like two children arguing at the playground. Trump did come across as a bit of a petulant child there, I got to admit. I don't have an emotional investment in either one of them, but I do pray for the American people, and I hope that they have the ability to actually decide their own leader, because I don't think that they've had that any more so than we have. So I hope that's what they're trying to figure out. But rather than two candidates vying to lead the free world, the fourth grade level of the debate and palpable hate emanating from the stage and the vacuity of most of what they said shows the urgent need for a full reset of American politics. No different than here in Canada. We'll talk about what's going on in Paris or in France tomorrow as well. And we kind of got to the bottom of that here now, and we'll unpack that in tomorrow's show. The federal Conservatives have tabled a bill to prevent the Bank of Canada from replacing hard cash with digital currency. It's a start. But is it theater, or are we going to do what we need to do as the people of Canada to push this? Not just push this, but to aggressively pursue the left to relent on their digital currency agenda. That's up to us, guys. Absolutely up to us. They state, in a world where governments, banks, and corporations are increasingly infringing on the privacy rights of Canadians, cash remains the only true anonymous form of payment. 100% correct. 100% correct. This bill calls for a national framework to ensure continued access to and the use of cash in Canada. It amends a Currency Act to limit the minister's arbitrary ability to arbitrarily and unilaterally call in banknotes in the Bank of Canada to act to ensure that the central bank does not develop or replace hard currency with a digital dollar, meaning they can't trap everybody like they've kind of got me trapped right now. And make no mistake, the banks in Canada, the Central Bank of Canada, actually is threatening the government to get us educated. Why? Because they are ESG, DEI, social credit compliant. And if we don't get social credit, DEI, ESG compliant, and it's going to be awful tough for them to live up to their attaboy list for the United Nations globalists. So, telling it like it is. Del Bigtree's July 4th message, freedom is not a guarantee. I showed you that. I'll make sure you get access to it later. Our founding fathers established the tenets of freedom in the Declaration of Independence and our U.S. Constitution. No other country has ever allowed freedom of religion, press, or speech. Tyranny was the norm for most of the world until those documents, right? So this is why I say, I'm not exaggerating when I said we've been living in the best time in human history. It's never been like this before, and we're letting it slip away because we're not doing the due diligence, but because we got lulled to sleep with candy and bad food and junk and poison. And then when that wasn't enough, then it became fear, terror, oppression, collusion, coercion, all of those things. No, yeah. Even now, tyranny threatens freedom. We saw this play out over the last few years during the beer bug hoax. Freedom is under attack. There are forces in our own governments that don't value freedom. And in fact, they claim freedom is dangerous. We must push back against those who make that case. That's those, they must protect democracy while they're denouncing as dangerous and hostile the far right. Populism is democracy. If you're not popular, you don't get loud. You cannot be populist if you are not the common denominator of popularity. So for them to continuously try to silence us by saying the popular vote is the danger to democracy is absolutely ludicrous, and they need to be laughed, tarred, and feathered, right? So for Barbie fans, there is now a injured Barbie by the Vaccine Liberation Army. I'll add a link to that. I don't necessarily think that's good news, but I think it's kind of provocative. But that's freedom. That's freedom. So there's some interesting movement on some of the legal actions, guys, that I think I've been trying really hard to get Lee Turner to come on and speak with us. He's representing Dr. Charles Hoff, whose case is beyond the pale of insanity. Hollywood couldn't write it up, and the levels of corruption that they've engaged in to silence this good doctor, unbelievable. The lawfare and stuff that we've been getting pretty regular updates from Lee Turner, but it's very interesting. So here's a bit of an update. Dr. Charles Hoff and his lawyer Lee Turner were successful in defeating the application by the CPSB of BC, where they sought an order from the panel taking judicial notice. There's that word that they don't want to argue something some monkey said before, so they pretend that the monkey is right and it cannot be argued anymore, and they call it judicial notice. They noticed the last judge said this is the way it's got to be, so they're not going to change that either, so forget about it. You're not talking about it in the court. You can't re-raise any of that. But taking judicial notice of the version of facts concerning the safety and effectiveness of the C vaccine and SARS, blah, 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 blah. I get almost trapped into saying those. I don't want to talk about them anymore. I don't want to use those syllables. They get me in trouble. They'll publish a very detailed report on this in the next couple of days. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'll see again if I can get Lee to join us for a horse's mouth conversation on that. But the U.S. Supreme Court has delivered a ruling that will weaken the powers of the administrative state. And this one here, guys, I do have the actual documents, and I will make sure that you can download these in the Substack tomorrow as well, so you guys can read for this for yourself and get second opinions. But you can tell people that, no, you didn't get it from a conspiracy theorist. You got it from an analyst, and these are some of the facts, right? So the U.S. Supreme Court has delivered a ruling that will weaken the powers of the administrative state. On Friday, June 28th, the court voted 6-3 in favor of overturning Chevron deference, a principle of administrative law that requires courts to defer to agency interpretations of ambiguous statutes. So Fauci saying, oh, my agency is the expert, the courts must take judicial notice because I said so. That's basically what they said. No more, not working. You don't get that power. So this will greatly increase the ability to challenge agencies. Oh, sorry, guys. I forgot to click the wrong button there for you, but now you guys will get it. Again, you get all this tomorrow. This will greatly increase the ability to challenge agencies like the FDA and the CDC when they stretch the limits of the law. It's widely expected that this new ruling will lead to an avalanche of lawsuits challenging agency actions that are based on interpretations of ambiguous statutes. Legal experts are saying this will play out for decades in the lower courts as the legal system and the administrative state adjust to this new reality. This is going to be hundreds of Aaron Brockovich style massive class action lawsuits with the pharma companies and every sycophant along the way. They knew, they did it anyways, and that's one thing that I do appreciate about our friends, family, cousins, and neighbors south of the border is they don't forgive as quickly as Canadians do, or as they refuse to forgive, whereas Canadians are being forced to forgive. However, which way you want to look at it, I'm looking forward to transparency and justice starting to hit the table in mass, at least in a few places. So a Tennessee jury has awarded $687,000 to an employee of Blue Cross who was fired for not getting the poke. Blue Cross denied her religious exemption request and was found to not have offered a reasonable accommodation without undue hardship. The jury awarded total damages to plaintiff in the amount of that, comprised by $177,000 in back pay, damages of another $10,000 in compensatory damages, and by separate verdict, $500,000 in punitive damages. That's exactly the kind of stuff they're going to be. There's going to be a lot of citizen action. Sorry, Rizart. You know, righteous anger is necessary. We need some dang righteous anger. What we cannot do is fall prey to being set up as the hostile ones. If we don't understand what we're truly up against, if we don't actually address it with some righteous anger and some organizational skills, we're doomed. So I look at all of this as part and parcel of what's necessary. I am the pull the Band-Aid off guy, and let's get to fixing it, right? So that's kind of me. Sorry, Rizart. I'm pulling the Band-Aid off a little bit every single day here. And here's the other point of that, guys. If you've noticed, the last 6 weeks, I've been pulling the Band-Aid off every single night because they're not going to let me for much longer if we don't. That's it. That's the reason. If I don't get all of my ammunition out now, what am I gonna regret not having given you guys when I possibly could have? So that's kind of why I'm so committed to making the most out of this last hurrah when it comes to the digital warfare space that we're in right now. This is kind of like a little bit like the Alamo on some of these platforms. Day by day by day, we're going to be losing them. So, citizen action. This I had to send Brother Mark a message to say that I was glad he had read this. In a different time and place, he would never understand or know or even have a concept about what is in The Myth is Canada. And I've tried just to explain it and to get him to look, but whoever it was that actually got him to go and look, kudos to you. Thank you for that. Everybody needs to understand so much more of what's contained in this particular website. It's not the prettiest thing. It's not the most user-friendly, but it is authentic, genuine, and accurate. Everything you need there, everything you need is in there for us to hit the easy button, get rid of the crooks, jail the corruption, get rid of the national debt, and actually be a free country, free and prosperous nation again. Everything's in there, but we have to understand the language for the jurisdiction, and that is the preeminent site to for people to get educated on that kind of stuff. So Mark's there. He's being another dose of red, gray, black, somewhere in between pill. He's getting it. I'm glad to see it, and it's made it to his Substack. So the purpose is to educate the people to come together to exercise our rights and empower ourselves. It states, if the people in the provinces and territories, which is recognized as 12 sovereign nations, could awaken to what the government of Canada Inc. really is, master that owns them upon their consent, and take the blinders off, put there by those who call themselves the government, we could have true, real, and genuine freedom. We could all have a brighter future. The government of Canada Inc. has painted itself as some sort of religious fairy tale set out to save everyone and keep them safe. Once people realize the truth and claim ownership over their land, they can truly be free. There's so much there, guys. So much there, and this is our year. Make it or break it. I think people are realizing that if they don't get into something, they're going to break it. So this gets back to, if we're going to be in this space talking to people, it is our responsibility to give them the truth and the accurate information. So if anybody's just cheering that Pierre Poilievre is the answer, they are not being genuine or truthful to you. They are not. They are at that point. And if they don't want to have an open and fair discussion with you on that, they are a part of the Freedom Industrial Complex. They are there to profit or for some other agenda that is not your actual freedom. And I don't make that claim lightly. Any single one that wants to challenge me on that needs to understand this, because they cannot argue what they don't understand. And if they can't admit that they don't know what they don't know and want to dismiss you because you know the truth, they are a part of that Freedom Industrial Complex. They are a part of the cancer, the parasites that bleed us dry and keep us split apart, arguing, squabbling, full of wedge issues, squabbling about things that make absolutely no difference, no impact, and will never make a change. They are the leaders of the soap opera communities, right? And that doesn't get us anywhere. So like me or hate me, guys, that's the reality. I don't do this to be right. I do this so that you guys can someday be free. I'm taking the risks. I'm not doing this for popularity. So BC Town Halls this week provided a number of stories of citizen action where citizens stood up and took action rather than waiting for our various governments and their agencies to act. Their actions saved homes during the fires in BC, protected lands, rights, and other successes because they acted rather than complied. This is what those guys every one of the bureaucrats fails to realize we don't need them. They need us. They are absolute parasites. They don't generate anything. They depend on us, and they depend on ruling us to get more from us. So, so many of these things, if it doesn't serve you, if it doesn't serve your community, if it isn't protecting you, yeah, I mean, just don't do it. We'll build our own Canada the way it should have been built, the way we've had the rights to build it. That's a whole other story for a long time. And I'm way over time here. In medicine, Paul Thomas, MD, and D.D. Hoover have announced the upcoming release of Vax Facts, what to consider before vaccinating at all ages and all stages of life. This indispensable guide will be available in December 2024, but you can pre-order your copy now. I think I may have I meant to pull this up. Guys, if you get to the Mythos Canada, this is the website that Mark is referring here. There's everything, literally everything you need to know. And it's about literally explaining to everybody, teaching us the myth, the true history, the core identity that Trudeau claims that we don't have is because they stole it from us. They hid it from us. They've been so busy transitioning us into a culture of 72 identities and absolutely no skill sets or ability. So that's the greatest theft in the history of our country is this, the knowledge of our actual country. And every single one of those Meat Muppets in Ottawa, they know this. They know this. And so the Vax Facts, this is the book. I'll have a link for this for folks that was mentioned just here in the good news section. And this other one, Chris Shaw and Stephen Pellick have announced the upcoming release of Down the COVID Rabbit Hole, edited by Chris Shaw and Stephen Pellick. The book will be available in early September. You can pre-order now and get a copy of that. Folks that have been following this platform since the beginning, we were the first one to tackle the medical aspect of it in all of the independent media in Canada. It started, the pushback started right here on What's Up Canada with Dr. Talks #1 and Byron Bridle, and I think Dr. Pellick was maybe our third or fourth guest. So he's been at this a long time. This book is absolutely jam-packed full of evidence, and I don't personally know Chris, but I'll tell you what, I've sat through a number of years of meetings with Chris, and I can tell you that I am eager to get my hands on a copy of this to complement the mounting evidence that everybody will soon have access to. So really excited to see that one. In an interview this week, Dr. Trotsky and Makis make some pretty significant statements. Absolutely, they do. There's very few doctors brave enough to make statements as bold as both of those. So anybody that's had an opportunity to see these guys on the tour that Mark's been engaged in out west, you're lucky folks. These are the guys that, you know, will live in history. These are the guys that will be remembered when we're remembering our free country moving forward, right? It's guys like these guys. So they state that the various provincial health services impose illegal mandates on the public, and in many provinces, the governments continue to seek or pass legislation to give themselves greater power to dictate to the public. 100% they do, and we're going to be covering a little bit of that tomorrow on how they're going to psyop us once again, guys. I'm on to something here. This is going to be as early a warning as you're going to get from anybody on the language that they are coming at us, that they are preparing with to assault you next, to literally terrorize you with next. And over all of this, the WHO continues their campaign to gain the authority to declare a pandemic at any time for seemingly any reason, and to use the power of corrupt cooperating governments to further violate the rights of the people and further damage their health. That's the part earlier we were talking about Chrystia Freeland over there signing away more stuff to the United Nations in Davos through these unholy alliances and grid. You know, that would be the pandemic treaty. That would be more of what they're referring to here about signing away to the poison factories to crush your health, right? So in this interview, the link there, and this is why I'm reading all of this. These are the guys you need to be listening to. I know everybody doesn't have a mountain of time. Separate the noise through this on Monday. That's kind of what Mondays here are about. To kind of give you guys the best of the best, and you guys can go in and find the time to get it into you. Listen to these two guys. So I was going to read this whole letter to you guys, but I'm not going to, just because I'm already an hour and a half hour over. But guys, this letter is huge. The open letter states medical censorship, whether externally enforced by social media platforms, by GMC investigations or NAS managers, or whether self-inflicted, lead to the same end result: a failure to properly investigate harms or advocate for patient choice or even patient safety. We urge you to implement the following actions: that GMC apply the same protection to whistleblowers reporting vaccine harms that you rightly observed were missing decades ago in the contaminated blood scandal. That was a Canada thing, and they're using that as a reference to don't let it happen again like that happened. That's a big deal, guys. That was huge. It cost so many lives. Canadians stood up and fought for justice on that, but they're being terrorized away from doing so again, and we can't let that happen. So to call a moratorium or do not arise directly from patients about actual care, but it's a very profound letter. I'm probably not doing it justice, but that's kind of in a nutshell most everything that I wanted to cover from the news, the good, bad, and otherwise. I want to even let you guys think about this one just before we head out. There is an abundance of oil. There is an abundance of gas. There's an abundance of coal, food, water, energy. It's all the game of the psychopaths. It was, the same principle as the Bears. And right now, with our unemployment rate rising up to 6%, 6.4%, yeah. This is what we're looking at across the country. This is what they're manifesting. So I think it's up to us, the adults in the room, to do what's necessary and take our communities back. Remember, guys, the 100% safe and effective cure for globalism is localism. So get on out there, support the people that are doing the hard work. I've covered a whole bunch of these guys here, those folks here tonight that are doing the best work possible, and they're doing it all for us. And we need to support the ones that are doing the hard work, not the ones that suck us deeper into the lullaby or entertain us with Pied Piper music that soothes the ear but destroys our land. There's so much of that going on. So I'm hoping to just provide a little bit more discernment, encourage people to work with the people that are doing things from the deeper rule of fives, people that are working towards building freedom. Firefighters can be kind of crazy, or freedom fighters can be kind of crazy and not exactly always on point. So think about being a freedom maker or a freedom builder, freedom fighter or a freedom builder. I like to think that I'm a freedom builder here, and if I happen to be one of your favorite journalists, good, bad, or otherwise, if you want a mailing address, email me and I'll send you one of those. But in the meantime, donate at whatsupcanada.org is how I need to keep this thing going and keep you guys plugged in, guys. So, yeah. All right. I love y'all. Oh, one last. I can't believe I almost forgot this one. This is just another good one that if you're seeing it on TV, it's a lie. And it's probably a lie about Pierre Poilievre as well. But the one that I really wanted to show you guys before I head out of here is Wednesday. This isn't going to be live, guys. I will be with you on live, but I had a chance on Saturday to do a pre-record interview with Jim Ferguson. It was absolutely phenomenal. This is there's nothing that makes me feel more empowered or stronger than seeing people coming together to the greater good. We're fighting for humanity, and knowing, gauging how we set our victories. Getting Trudeau out, that's not really a victory. Getting the cabal out, that's a victory. That is what freedom is, and that's a victory for humanity, right? That's where we moving forward with freedom. So a lot of discussion on that. Absolutely fantastic discussion. I will be here with y'all and Jim's on Wednesday. So please make sure you give this a like, subscribe, and a share, and help us get this message out now more than ever. And tomorrow will be another blockbuster a blockbuster show from Clown World again. All right, guys, I love you all. Stay Canadian, stay mighty, stay fierce, my fellow patriots and hostages. We will see you tomorrow.